Hi, everyone. We can go ahead and get started. My name is Ashley Chapman, and I'm the marketing manager over at Apogee. I just want to thank you for joining our Apogee Advantage webinar series today. So today we have our friends over at USLI who will be discussing our nonprofit D&O product and also going over our instant quoting capabilities. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to drop them in the chat. But now I'm going to pass it over to Chris and Connor to get us started.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Ashley. And once again, thank you everyone for joining us here today. I'm really excited to kind of talk to you again, like Ashley mentioned, about some of our nonprofit directors and officers options, but then also some of the quickest and easiest ways in which you can get a quote with USLI through Apogee. Before we go ahead and get started, just want to introduce myself. So my name is Connor Dunn. I'm one of our instant quote sales specialists over here at USLI. And with me, we have Chris Devaney, who is our nonprofit management liability underwriting team leader. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. But before we do, just want to remind everyone that just due to the number of attendees, everybody is on mute. So if you do have any questions throughout the webinar, please feel free to drop those into the chat. And Chris, Ashley, and I can definitely attend to those. But yeah, with that, I will go ahead and pass things over to Chris to go ahead and get us started.
All right. Thank you, Connor, and thank you, Ashley, and thanks to all of you for taking a few minutes out of your afternoons or mornings to spend with us today. So as Connor said, my name is Chris Devaney. I'm going to just lead you through a high-level overview of our nonprofit directors and officers product here. Some of the coverage advantages, some of our appetite, a little bit on the community and homeowners associations D&O as well. And then at the end of the presentations, Connor's going to show you how quick and simple and easy it is to get a quote for this type of business through the Apogee portal online. So,
and Ashley, I apologize. Are you just able to pass controls over to Chris? It looks like I can't do that on my end for some reason.
I think we got it there.
Yeah, sure. Give me 1 second. Okay, you should be good to go now. Yeah, of course.
Oops. I think you lost the presentation there.
We will go ahead and get that pulled right back up. And I can just walk through everything.
Okay.
It's no issue.
Brief technical difficulties as we enter the holiday season.
Wouldn't be a webinar without one, but perfect. There we go.
All right, here we go. So just by way of background, as you can see up here on the screen, back in 1994, predating my time here, of course, we launched our nonprofit D&O product, and we were actually one of the earlier carriers to adopt, a specialized form to serve nonprofits and their directors and officers. At the time, there was a lot of public and private company D&O out there, but there was really just a handful of carriers who had a specialized product tailored to nonprofit. And as you fast forward to today, over 30 years later, still just a huge part of who we are as a company, a huge line of business for us in the nonprofit sector in general. And the opportunity, really, we're just scratching the surface. So, as we look from 1994 to today, we insure over 150,000. That's probably going to be approaching 200,000 nonprofit entities as a company, across all lines of business. And a large number of those, carry directors and officers and employment practices liability with us. But as you can just see, before I move on to the next slide, depending on where you look, there's over 2 million nonprofits in the country. You'll see estimates from 1.8 million all the way up to 2.3. So it's just an enormous part of our economy, enormous part of our opportunity as insurance professionals, something that we can certainly be excited about. I just think the pictures help kind of, guide some of these things. So I threw a couple photos in here to talk through some of the classes that we write. One of the things that I really was surprised with when I started working in this space is just how many things are nonprofits that I didn't necessarily think were nonprofits. Country clubs are a good example. Many of those are 501c organizations. Some of them are not, but they still operate, in the capacity of a nonprofit, meaning that the members own the club, all the money's stored in-house. Nobody's actually taking or extracting profits from the club. Class of business we've been doing really, really well with over the past couple of years here. As a lot of country club business tends to be tied up in package programs, which, without fail tend to shift or have dynamics change year after year. So this photo here is from a club in the Philadelphia region that has very unique wicker baskets instead of the flags there. You know, I know insurance and golf often go hand in hand, so we figured we'd lead that off and catch everyone's attention. Moving on to the next here, you know, education. This is another big one for me. I didn't realize how many schools are nonprofit organizations, how many private schools, how many daycares, how many elementary schools, Montessori schools, you know, another class of business we absolutely love here. We have a lot of experience within that space. This again, you know, is a private school here in the region. And it goes on and on. The next slide I'll show you here is an interesting one. This is a kind of snapshot probably 100 years ago. The photo on the left used to actually be a lifeguard station. So this was an old historic lifeguard command center down at the Jersey Shore. And the photo on the right is how this building now looks today. It's now an American Legion Hall. You know, fraternal organizations, VFWs, Elks, American Legion Halls, all of those types. Big time of year for them, a lot of holiday fundraisers going on, a lot of nonprofits. If you do work in the space, you may know that July 1st and January 1st tend to be big dates because a lot of nonprofit organizations have their fiscal years come up on those dates. So we are pushing up against January 1st here, but a lot of these types of organizations gearing up for the holidays and thinking about their insurance plans for 2026. And then they span all the way up to the top. So this actually used to have the NFL, used to be a nonprofit for a number of years. They were eventually sued to give up that status. But believe it or not, the NFL used to be a nonprofit organization that was a trade group, you know, representing the interests of the 32 member teams. They have since given up their 501 status, which leads us here to the NCAA. You know, obviously a mammoth organization, over $1 billion flowing through every year. Most of that is taking the form of revenue from sports and then distributed as scholarships to student athletes and other students as they go forth. So just a bit out of appetite here in terms of USLI, but just in terms of laying out the landscape for you, I thought that might be interesting. And Apogee, I'm sure, would be happy to try to find solutions for any of those risks that do fall out of USLI appetite. And just a few more here you'll see every day: churches, camps, low-income housing facilities, you know, radio broadcasting, museum, youth sports, you name it. You know, we typically would love to take a look at it from a D&O standpoint and be able to help you get those coverage needs met. So just a little bit about the product. We're not going to get too far into the weeds today, but typically you're going to be looking at 3 main coverage parts. You'll have your directors and officers coverage. You know, this is really the coverage for the board members, for the directors, all the decisions they're making in their meetings. How are they using funds? How are they executing on the mission of the organization? How are they adhering to the bylaws that they have? It's, you know, a good way to think of it is kind of E&O or errors and omissions coverage for the board in their decisions, in their meetings. A lot of boards are made up of volunteers from the community, especially if you go down to the youth sports world, you know, the church world and things along those lines. I would just encourage you, if you know people who are volunteering in that capacity, they absolutely should be looking at D&O coverage. About half of nonprofit organizations do not buy it. And it's really because they don't know that they can be exposed. The people don't understand that their personal assets could be on the line based on these decisions. And that's what D&O coverage does. It protects the organization, but it also protects the individuals. The next coverage here, employment practices liability. This is your discrimination, your sexual harassment, wrongful termination. You know, this would be typically what you would think of in the context of an employee and an employer, right? If you were wrongfully terminated from your position as an employee, you could then turn around and sue your employer if you felt that was done wrongfully. What I see in the nonprofit space is a lot of organizations fall into the trap of thinking that if they don't have paid employees, if they're just a volunteer organization, they don't need this coverage. And I understand logically how they get there because it's called employment practices liability. But it's really, really important to understand that volunteers, third parties, and independent contractors can all be subject to these types of things. So a volunteer can still be sexually harassed or racially discriminated against. A third party could be anyone they interact with who's not an employee. So this could be someone applying for membership at a country club, which we talked about earlier, applying for a scholarship and not receiving it, and independent contractors who you might hire on a temporary basis. So please, please, please do not let a nonprofit organization say we don't need that coverage just because we don't have paid employees. We're going to be including that third-party coverage for you automatically. And we also include what's called wage and hour coverage here, which deals with the payment of overtime wages for individuals who work on an hourly basis. A lot of people within the nonprofit sector are paid hourly. A lot of people tend to work long hours because they are passionate about the things that they're working on. But when the relationship sours, if that is an employment relationship, there can certainly be issues if the organization did not have the best record keeping, did not properly pay overtime wages. And our policy at USLI is a little unique in the sense that we'll not only defend these claims, we'll actually pay the back wages, the wages owed, which is pretty unique in the marketplace. Last coverage here, fiduciary liability. This deals with things like 401ks, employee benefit plans, retirement plans, and negligence associated with the handling of those by the board. So those are kind of the big three that you're going to see from a coverage standpoint. Our product starts with the D&O, the EPL, employment practices, and fiduciary are both optional. They can take them, they can leave them. We, of course, always recommend they can at least consider all of those coverages, but that's kind of the structure of the product and options here. So jumping on to the next one, just wanted to give you all an idea. I talked a little bit about classes at the outset here, but you'll see just a huge world out there. Social and human service, I would say, is probably our largest bucket overall. I just refer to this as people helping people. I talked about schools earlier, libraries, museums, zoos, foundations, you name it, down to the religious groups. I did just see a question pop up about that wage and hour coverage. That is not limited to the nonprofit product. We offer that same dynamic on our monoline EPL form as well. So if you had for-profit businesses that needed that coverage, we offer that through there as well. That's just not available in the state of California, would be my only caveat. All right, moving on to the next slide, just a few more classes here. Youth sports. I think healthcare is a big one. That was one that I did not really mention at the outset. We've seen a huge rise in nonprofit healthcare providers, whether it's clinics, whether it's mental health centers, maybe whether it's substance abuse counseling, referral services. We've seen that really, really explode, probably starting maybe even a little before COVID, but certainly during the pandemic. A lot of mental health demand increased, and a lot of the nonprofit sector kind of stepped up to meet that demand. So that's another one that we've been seeing quite a bit of and doing very, very well with from a class standpoint. Fraternal clubs I talked about, and professional and trade groups. 'Tis the season for all of those to get together and have one last hurrah as well. So real quick, just before we move back into how we get this stuff quoted for you, a couple of coverage features I just want to touch on. I hit on a couple of these already. But first and arguably most importantly, I did want to talk about the top one here. We have $1 million of what's called additional Side A coverage included for no charge on our product. So when I talked earlier about individuals being liable, individuals facing personal liability, that's Side A coverage. That's in an insurance policy for D&O. There's going to be an insuring agreement that says if you're an individual and you're sued and the organization can't indemnify you or can't pay you back for that claim, that's going to be covered here. Now, if you have a really bad loss that exceeds the limit purchased, guess what? The individual board member could be on the hook for anything additional. Our policy includes an additional $1 million. Think of it as an excess layer of side A for those individual board members for no additional charge. Now, a lot of carriers may offer an additional side A limit, 250, 500, it may be for a charge, but you can bank on that additional $1 million from USLI built right in there. We also have this lifetime occurrence reporting provision. It's basically a concept similar to an extended reporting period for individual directors. So if Connor and Ashley and myself all serve on a board together, I retire and move to Florida. Connor would never do this because he's an insurance professional, but if he said, we don't need this coverage anymore, it's too expensive, I don't understand it, he doesn't mail in the payment, we don't renew our policy. A lawsuit comes in 2 months later because of something we all jointly decided back when I was on the board. Guess what? Connor just canceled all of our coverage. And this is a claims-made policy, and we now have no coverage. I, as the person who left, would actually be able to report back to my USLI policy under this lifetime occurrence reporting provision because I wasn't part of the decision to cancel, and I wasn't there when that decision was made. And I think these top 2 points really, really are compelling if you're talking to an end buyer. Hey, I can get you an additional $1 million of coverage in case you have a worst case scenario claim, and you don't have to worry about what happens after you rotate off the board. And think about a lot of organizations, you're serving a 2-year term, your child ages out of the little league, you're not a member of the swim club anymore, you move on, years and years after you leave, there could still be trailing liability for you. So it's really a great just base coverage to start with. I talked about the third party and the wage and hour. We really do try to give you our best foot forward up front with everything we quote. We try to do it very, very quickly. And like I said, if it's something that we can't do, we'll let you know that very quickly as well. And guess what? Apogee has plenty of other markets that they can go explore for you. They'll get you some quotes on whatever you need for that client. But we try to get in there quickly. It's going to be quality. It's going to be fast. And we just try to be very, very clear about what we can and cannot do. So I know that was a lot of information in a short amount of time. I just want to make sure that I give time here for Connor to walk you through exactly how you can get this quoted. And a really interesting feature that we built into the web portal, which you can access through the Apogee website.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Chris. Sorry, one more point.
Sorry, I forgot. I got too excited about it, but
no, you're all good. I
just want to mention we also do have a separate product here for community associations, for homeowners associations, so condos, townhomes, HOAs, mobile home parks, office parks. A lot of the same great coverage I just talked about on a specialized form for these types of organizations. The reason I bring it up, here in this context is there's just been an awful lot of remarketing within this space, again, driven from the package side. So you may see some of these opportunities as well coming through. So we rate these on number of units. A lot of the same great features that I talked about will be shown on the next slide here. And the quoting process for this would be very similar to the nonprofit form. It's just under a separate tile within the same page. So we're talking about associations up to 1,000 units, generally $1 million or under in terms of average value, and associations that have been established or at least transitioned over to the owners, meaning they're not at groundbreaking construction phase. And so with that, I will pass it to Connor for real this time, as many of these additional coverages are very similar to what I had already discussed on the nonprofit side.
Perfect. Well, thanks, Chris. And once again, if anybody has any questions about, some of the nonprofit D&O coverages and features that Chris had spoken to, definitely feel free to put those in the chat. But before I talk about how you can quickly and easily quote this business over the phone and web with us, just want to quickly highlight our Business Resource Center, because these are things that I think a lot of these nonprofits can take advantages of as well. Essentially, what our Business Resource Center is free and discounted services available to policyholders. Again, so these can be a great value add when presenting a quote. Definitely some things that, again, a policyholder might be able to take advantage of. Things like some human resource hotline, discounted background checks, drug screenings, promotional items, things of that nature. So if you are looking to even get some more information about anything that might be available, feel free to visit us at bizresourcecenter.com. But with that, want to jump right into the exciting part, and that's really how you can quickly and easily quote some of these different classes here with us at USLI through Apogee. So first and foremost, what is instant phone quote? Well, to boil it down, it's the quickest and easiest way to get a quote available. As an Apogee customer, you have access to their dedicated phone number, that being 888-845-1637, where you can dial in and get connected to our team of over 90 plus underwriters who are ready to assist you over the phone. Once connected, we ask you some various key rating and information questions in order to generate a quote. Once the process is complete, what our underwriters will do is they'll email you a copy of that quote directly, along with a pre-filled application and that you and your applicant can verify and sign before you decide to bind. And then again, as Chris had alluded to earlier, we are just one of the many markets that you have access to through Apogee. So if for any reason you give us a quote, or excuse me, a call for something that we just can't quote here at USLI, what we'll do is we'll refer back we'll refer you back over to Apogee for help with some of their other markets. So again, just always trying to get you connected and streamline those options as best as possible. So some benefits. Well, first and foremost, our instant quote teams really help to save time. So one great thing is that there's no quote forms or applications needed up front. And then on the back end, what we'll do is we'll send you over a pre-filled application with any information that we receive along with a copy of the quote. There's that level of flexibility. So, if you've gotten insured in your office or if you're out on the road with them, you can call us from just about anywhere. So, definitely great that way. There's that level of expertise. So when you do give a call in, you are speaking with a product expert. Again, somebody that can really dive into what is on your desk and help to provide you with the best quote possible. And last but not least, there's that level of accessibility. So our team of underwriters are available from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern time, Monday through Fridays, as well as 9 to 1 Eastern time on Saturdays. So again, definitely great, looking to help you where we can. And again, nice that we are available outside of your typical 9 to 5 hours. I do see we have a question from Christine about whether this program is exclusive through Apogee. So these are just USLI products. This is something that we're a market for as a whole, but again, as an Apogee customer, you do have access to not only these products, but these instant quote platforms as well. So just some things that you can expect after the phone quoting process. Well, first and foremost is going to be a copy of that quote. Again, along with the quote, as I had mentioned earlier, we also send you over a pre-filled application with any information that we receive over the phone. And then last but not least, we will also send over some point of sale materials, which is really just more information in regards to our business resource center as well. We always want to make sure that Apogee is kept in the loop, so they'll receive a copy of the quote too. And then should this be something that you and your insured would like to move forward with, you would just send that bind request over to your contact at Apogee. So before we kind of go on and show you, again, just how easily you can quote this Nonprofit D&O product right over the phone, I do want to highlight just our postcard as a whole. So yes, nonprofit directors and officers is one of the products that we can do, but there's a lot outside of that as well. So here at USLI and through Apogee, we're a market for, a lot of your different smaller commercial accounts, but then also a ton of professional management and nonprofit classes as well. So again, the great thing with this is that you can really just give us a call right over the phone and hopefully quote that way. So with that, if there's anything on your desk here today, our team of underwriters would love to assist with that. So feel free to just dial in right through that number highlighted up top. And we can certainly, help you with that. So. Awesome. And so just to kind of summarize everything before we head over to the web to show you exactly what we can help with there, again, feel free to give our Instant Quote team a call if there is something that we can possibly assist with. All you need to do is dial 888-845-1637. Again, no quote forms or applications needed to quote, which is definitely great to see. And our underwriters are available from those extended underwriting hours from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday, as well as 9 to 1 on Saturdays. So definitely great. But with that, I am going to switch screens real quick. And again, just show you exactly how easy it is to get a quote for this nonprofit directors and officers. So Chris, I did
While
see we got
Connor
a
pulls that,
question. Yep.
Sorry, I didn't mean to
Oh, no, you're
jump
good.
over you there. But while Connor pulls that up, Christine, I just saw you had asked about minimum premium. We start as low as $475, and it can actually go even lower than that. But that would be for $1 million in coverage, defense outside the limit, for certain classes of business. So it's very, very affordable. That's less than $40 a month, essentially, if you net it out that way. So, that's for certain classes, but it depends all about the class of business, how much they have in terms of annual revenue, which is the rating basis for the D&O, and goes from there.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. And so again, just want to show you how you can quote this class of business right here online through Apogee's website. So as you can see here on your screen, we're right here at Apogee's homepage. And if any of you haven't been able to navigate through here yet, I definitely suggest you do. You can access their webpage at apogeeinsgroup.com. Once there, you're going to navigate over to the Quote Online button. And once you get there, you're going to see their list of various online raters. And in order to quote with USLI, we'll click the Learn More button just for USLI, and then we can select access this platform. From here, you'll just hit Start a Quote to enter in your login credentials. Again, that is just going to be, your email address. And if you haven't created an account with us here yet, it's certainly pretty quick and easy to do so. In which case, again, you just register with a couple pieces of information, and then you will be able to quote with there moving forward. But myself, I already have a login, so as you can see, once you do get logged in the portal, this is going to be our Start a Quote page. So what's really nice here is that there's a couple different filtering options really to help get you to the product that you'd like to be. But with that, again, today we're looking to quote some nonprofit directors and officers. So we'll go here, we'll select management liability on the left-hand side, and then over here on the right, there's the nonprofit management liability insurance product tile. We'll go ahead and select Start a Quote. And what's great here is Chris had mentioned, this is a tool which makes, quoting nonprofit directors and officers very quick and easy. So what we've essentially done is, we've gotten together with a nonprofit database to really help kind of pull and generate that information on a quote for us. So again, as you can see here, I'll show you just how exactly this works, but you can really type in any sort of keyword for a nonprofit organizations and then even enter things like your zip code and a state, and that'll essentially populate everything within that area. So if we think about, whether it be Little League baseball organizations, certainly lots of those. And then once we come in here and type this in, we can select search, and it will pull a list of maybe all of the nonprofit little leagues that are within the area. So again, can be a great prospecting tool, but also, helps to navigate through these various organizations very quick and easy. We have our, nonprofit organization here at USLI called the Carrot Squared Fund. So we'll just go ahead, select that, hit continue. And right now, the platform is generating a quote.
And it's really just those two pieces of information that the platform actually goes, and while it's connecting here, it goes and pulls from the database all the information we would typically ask the applicant for, and it already knows everything about their revenue, address, class of business.
Yep. And so again, as Chris had mentioned, with just those two pieces of information, we were able to get a quote here today. Our quotes will lay out, different limit options for what might be needed for the insured. And then again, as I had mentioned earlier, there's that pre-filled application with all of the information that we would typically ask. And again, it's really nice because it's answered right here just with the information that was provided through that database. So again, we hope that this can be something that can be of help to you. Again, even if you are looking to start quoting more nonprofit D&O businesses, this is certainly a great way to do so. So with that, Chris, anything else you wanted to add just to kind of the platform or the ease of use with coding?
No, I think you hit on most of it really well, Connor. It's a very simple process. I would say on balance, about 7 out of 10 organizations are going to be quotable through here, so it has a great success ratio. And I would just say if it's something that's a little larger than the web typically would accommodate, or it's a class of business that needs further review, you'll actually get an option where you can just submit that through to underwriting, and somebody will get back to you within a few hours with an answer on that one as well. But it's been a great feature for us. It simplifies things for you. It simplifies things for us. And the information being pulled is data that's on file with the IRS. So it's verified information. It's accurate information. And it just makes the process much smoother and much easier, as Connor just outlined there.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Chris. And again, once again, thank you all for taking the time to join us here today. Certainly appreciate, your time as well as being able to share some of this information with you. But with that, Ashley, anything else that you wanted to add?
Nope, I'm all good on my end. Thank you, everybody, for joining. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us.
Awesome.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it.